6 after 8, very good morning to you, Sandile Swana. We are looking at the full text by Paul Mashatile's address at the opening of the National Dialogue on Coalition Governments. All I can say at the end of it all is I'm a little confused. There's a lot of double speak as far as this is concerned. And I guess the bottom line is, are we going to make any progress as far as this is concerned? Will this become a reality? There's a lot of speak from the ANC and other political parties, but at the best of times, you and I know there's absolutely no action at all. Welcome, and how do you read the situation?
Thank you so much, Julie, and to the listeners of Salam Media. The first thing, so there are at least two documents, maybe three documents that are relevant to this. One, there's the document that was prepared by the presidency on this issue, which they published on their website. And then the document that most of us have not seen, which is the draft legislation on they say apparently there's a draft the bill that they've prepared, plus the speech by Mashatile. Now, the first thing that we need to recognize, which is obvious, is that South Africa is headed for coalition. Otherwise, this whole conference, they would it's not relevant at all. When they thought they could rule until Jesus comes back, as the ANC would have said earlier on, there was no conferences of this nature. So the DA and the ANC have been declining in the elections, and therefore coalitions have become necessary in the metros since 2016. So they know that in 2024, coalitions are going to come. Then the question is, how do you govern these coalitions? The laws, if we just stick to the municipal sector, the Municipal Structures Act, I think it's chapter 7 of section 7 of that act, says clearly what must be done. There are models of what must be done, but there's one model that is of particular interest that I would like to discuss, which is simply to say everybody gets the portfolios according to how many votes you got. So if you've got 40% of the votes, you get X number of seats in the executive committee. If you got 20%, you get according to that. Eventually, the seats will pit out, and then the smaller parties might not get anything because there's not enough to go around. But that is already legislated. All the two major parties have not followed that route. Instead, they've wanted to create smaller minority, to rule from a position of minority. You lose the metro, then you create a consortium, a coalition that you can use to remain in power. And that is the problem that we as the citizens are now facing, where we've said basically through our votes that we want a government of local unity, we want a government of provincial unity. Next year, more specifically, we want a government of national unity. And the principles of how that government can be set up are already in our law. We don't need any conference about that. It must just be implemented as it is.
Okay, I read over the weekend, and I was quite surprised when I came across that article. It seems as if the DA are suggesting, or it might have been the ANC, that they would look at going into a coalition with each other. Do you think that that is in fact true? And how's that then going to work out? Because I certainly see a clash with those two parties coming together, because they are the direct opposite of each other.
In the ANC, as well as in the DA, as well as in the liberal community, and Weinstein, for instance, is one of those people who've been promoting the idea that a grand coalition of the ANC and the DA must happen. The Veterans League of the ANC is promoting this view strongly, that it must happen. Both parties realize that both of them are actually in danger of being overtaken by the EFF. This mechanism could delay the inevitable because, unfortunately, the statistics show that both parties are declining. So this is a mating of dinosaurs that are going, it's difficult, that are going into extinction. When I went through Twitter this morning as well, some of the previous members of the DA, the Mazibugos, Lindwe Mazibugo and others, the Van Dams and others, as you correctly point out, maybe you have other reasons, but certainly the racist white supremacist flavor of the DA is coming out very sharply as we speak. And the ANC would have to adopt a Bantustan type posture to say we will hand ourselves over to the DA. After all, the white people know how to run this country and we will be the front because in any case, we've already failed running this country. So it's actually going to be a chaotic disaster of a disgrace that we're headed for.
Let's look at the EFF. What are the chances? We're not sure what the outcome's going to be like. What the one certainty we are, we know of is, well, I hope so anyway, that the ANC is not going to walk away with the elections. They are going to have to go into a coalition with some party or the other. Chances of the ANC and the EFF coming together as a coalition party post the elections, what is that scenario going to look like for South Africa?
Remember what has happened now. The DA produced a list of enemies. A list of enemies that obviously enemy number one on that list being the EFF, then the PAC, AZAPO and others, PA and others. Now what that did was to galvanize the parties on the left and the black parties in the main in one direction, including the ANC, because they also said they don't want the ANC when they produced the list of enemies. On top of that, the AZAPO and PAC, which are well-known political brands in the history of the struggle and in the black communities, have sort of formed an alliance, if you'd like to call, of the left. So those people, if they are now to go into coalition with the ANC, it doesn't matter who goes into coalition with the ANC, even if it's the DA. The DA is like, you are going to have a brother who is an alcoholic, right, in terms of the ANC. So if the EFF, PAC, and all that group get into alliance with the ANC, they are going into alliance with their brother who's an alcoholic. So there are certain habits that the ANC has got that needs to be corrected. One of them being this ability to appoint incompetent people, appointing corrupt people, and non-performers. So there's a lot of cleansing that has got to happen in the ANC. The ANC has got to go into a rehabilitation center regardless of who takes it there. So that is what the next 5 years is going to be about. You have to focus on getting the basic services back. For instance, the sewage works at Hammanskraal. Make sure there's a professional engineer there. I was shocked to learn that for a long, long time, there's not been a professional engineer running that thing, although the law says it must be run by a professional engineer. So you just got to get that sorted out. So regardless of who gets into power, those are the basics. You can't do anything else other than to sort out those basics.
I'm kind of wondering, whatever the coalition, the end result of these coalitions will look like, it's going to be a very bumpy ride going forward, is it not? Because there's going to be a lot of power struggles in the initial days of the coalition. People are going to be clutching at as much power as they possibly can hold on to, which does bode ill for the country as a whole. Or will there be a master plan in place directing these coalitions so that we don't start off on very, very shaky footing and get the country in more trouble before it can see the light of day and for us to move forward? Or is this just going to bode the end of South Africa as a whole? Are we going to really be on our knees before things get better? Or how much worse of a situation will we be in before things start shaping up?
The problems that we have, it's not everybody's problems. The problems that we have is the DA and the ANC. For instance, the EFF, PAC, AZAPO, PA, and others cannot hold on to power that they do not have. They don't have the power. So the people who can hold on to power are the people who are in the ANC and in the DA. Now, the problem exactly there is quite specific. You have naturally power mongers at the DA which think they know it all and they must tell everybody what to do. That's one problem. On the side of the ANC, you've got well-established criminal networks that run the ANC who will want their mafia not to be disrupted by any coalition and so on and so forth. So that is going to be the source of the problems. Where is the source of a workable solution? The source of a workable solution comes from Mandela, it comes from Bantu Olomisa, and it comes from the law. It's a government of national unity, which is already provided for in our law. So you don't need to come up with any new amendment bills and what have you. You can just write schedules of how things are going to work, which is to say everybody gets power according to how many votes you got, because the two parties are most likely going to be discredited. In other words, they are not going to get a majority. The ANC will not get a majority, the DA will not get a majority. And they are going to lose, because when you lose the majority, when the ANC loses the majority, it means the voters are saying, we don't want your rule. We don't want you to govern us anymore. So you can be part of a government of national unity, but we don't want your leadership in South Africa anymore. We don't want your president, we don't want you. And that is the problem that the ANC is trying to disguise and say, we can get 40% and still be the president of the country and make it a law that we are the president of the country.
Okay, we need to go for an ad break. When we come back, let's unpack this even further. What I'm worried about here is, and you can respond right after the ad break, is we know what the current situation is regarding the governance of by the ANC. We also know the views of the DA. Lots of people view them as a white supremacist party. How are these two going to come together? I like the way you described that the ANC would be in the background and the DA will be in the forefront doing all of the work, trying to get the country back on its feet again. Let's talk about how the EFF is going to push back if we have such a coalition post the 2024 elections, but we'll unpack that right after the ad break.
With African Muslims Agency's Winter Warmth campaign, Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu would advise his companions, winter, which is an enemy, has come, so prepare for it with wool, leather socks and socks. Let us help the thousands of South Africans without adequate clothing or shelter to prepare for the harsh winter months by providing them with blankets for 150 Rand and winter warmth packs for 300 Rand. Spread warmth with African Muslims Agency. Call AMA on 011-834-8685 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. African Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
As the chilly winds sweep across our beautiful land, let us remember those in need. In South Africa, recent weather conditions have left many vulnerable individuals and families struggling to stay warm and nourished. With Ashraful Aid, you can donate a loaf of bread for 10 Rand, a blanket for 150 Rand, or soup for 100 people for just 230 Rand. Donate today at www.ashrafulaid.org. Winter warm, it starts with you.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
The Turkey-Syria earthquake is among the deadliest earthquakes of the last century. Thousands have lost their lives, and large areas and cities and towns in southern Turkey and northern Syria have turned to rubble, leaving huge numbers of residents with very little or nothing at all. Al Imdad Foundation's emergency relief team is on the ground providing life-saving aid. The people of Turkey and Syria desperately need your support. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Welcome back. This is News and Views on Salam Media. We are talking with political analyst, and that, of course, is Sandile Swana. We're talking about coalition governments going forward. And, of course, I put a question to you before the ad break. We talked about, the EFF, the rebel rouser, and that, of course, is Julius Malema. He's going to be making a lot of noise about this should the ANC and the DA go into a coalition government.
Yes. Let us, the question is in two parts. Let's deal with the part of what does the ANC moderate? What are they looking for? You must remember that these veterans are people who are generally probably above 70 and in their 80s. They've got no energy to run anything. So their view, and even to fight and win the struggle inside the ANC, because there's a big struggle that is still going to continue inside the ANC. So this is an outsourcing model where the DA is going to try and reintroduce technical excellence in the state, and the ANC being the front that says to the black majority, the Indians, the so-called coloreds, and the Africans, that we are here, you are represented by us, like you are represented by Tanzim and people and so on in the Bantustan and the tricameral parliament. They will be there whilst the white people are running the show. So that is the scenario that is coming. And these ones have got, the DA will have the duty to rehabilitate them from being addicted to stealing the state money and laziness, indolence, the dereliction of duty and so on. On the side of Malema is not on his own. The Freedom Front Plus is growing nicely. Action SA is growing nicely. EFF is growing nicely in terms of winning more votes. And the others are coming in, seeing chances of being revived. Good Party of Patricia de Lille, the likes of PAC and so on. Now, this is the issue, because you already had it, and Olomisa is also part of it, and Inkatha may well be part of it, to say, guys, you are now, DA and ANC, immorally and illegitimately creating a situation where before now, it took 51% to get into power. Now that we are losing power, we are losing votes, it's going to take 30% now to be the president of the country. You are lessening, you are making the criteria, the threshold to be lower. We are all minority parties, let's be treated equally. So that is going to be a battle that is not just going to be of the EFF, but the EFF and its crew, if you want to call them that, now know for sure that they must not waste time in anything else other than increasing their own votes to make sure that the percentage that they hold is going to contest and rival the DA or even beat the DA for that matter. So there's a lot of reconfiguration that has got to happen to make sure that they actually displace the DA on short notice. And in the process, eventually overthrow the whole idea of quotas that the ANC and the DA are trying to introduce.
There's also the question that up to now has not yet been addressed. The EFF have been a bit quiet on it, but for a long time they've been talking. There's been the issue around the RET. You know, the whole the split within the ANC. The EFF have been very vocal about that situation. What do you suppose is going to happen regarding the build-up to the elections and post the elections? The EFF undoubtedly are going to use that card again to garner as many votes as they possibly can. The whole issue around land redistribution, etc., without compensation.
The RET, the term RET has got two components. You have it as call it a policy or a strategy for economic reform in South Africa. But you also, that tag has also been identified with a faction within the ANC. If we were to talk about it as a policy in South Africa, economic policy, social transformation policy, and so on, I don't think there's any sober South African who thinks that there should not be radical economic transformation in South Africa. When we have 12 million South Africans unemployed out of 60 million, when we are leaders in both inequality, world leaders in both inequality and unemployment, and we are leaders in poverty. So radical economic transformation, whatever the content may be, the details of how you plan it, how to execute it, is necessary. Whether you are in the DA, in the ANC, or anywhere, it is necessary. On top of that, the EFF correctly argues that there must be economic freedom in our lifetime. Those issues also speak directly to the National Democratic Revolution, that certainly the amount of economic benefits that go to a white person must be the same that go to a black person across South Africa. On the organizational side, the EFF has maintained an open door to anybody who's getting expelled because they are associated with Zuma, the RET forces, or associated with Magashule, or whoever it may be, to say, guys, bring your supporters this side into this coalition of the left, and the EFF will lead the left and seek to overthrow the ANC and the DA.
Sandile, I'm wondering if the ANC hadn't been as corrupt as it is, had they governed the country as it was meant to be governed, if they didn't have cadre deployment at its core of its beliefs, if it didn't have and promote the large-scale corruption as it had with closed eyes up to now, if we didn't have state capture, etc., 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 and if the RET situation had been addressed right at the outset, at the beginning of our democracy, we wouldn't have been sitting in this predicament, would we? Things would have been very, very different. We probably would have had a very smooth running country with a lot of jobs employment, the health department, everything would have been running pretty smoothly. So this rot and this failure lies directly at the door of the ANC. Why should the country even give them a second shot at trying to run the country again, whether in a coalition or otherwise?
Your position, interestingly, I will sound provocative now. Your position, interestingly, would be Malema's position. Because
okay, I didn't realize that.
What Malema has said, Julius Malema of the EFF, what he has said is that even now, today, his preference would be that all the opposition parties, including the DA, form one coalition and remove the ANC from power. That can be done. That is realistic. That it can be done. It can be done now in 2024. That is possible. In Johannesburg, he demonstrated that by voting in Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni. He did that by voting for the DA, and in Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni, he did that. And then the DA turned around and said, "You can do whatever you want to support us, but we will not cooperate with you because you are a communist. You believe in Marxist-Leninism. You believe in Fanonism. You believe in the overthrow of white privilege." That's what Fanon promotes. So, and that is part of the registration documents of the EFF, that part of their job is to liquidate the racist beliefs of the white people of South Africa, and so on and so on. So they went into that ideological discussion. But we all know that China is a very successful country, it's a communist country. So today, you cannot be running around chasing people down because they are communists. You need to cooperate with anybody who is committed to human progress. So that view that the EFF can actually cooperate with all the opposition parties and be a participant in that is there on the table, and the view to remove the ANC is there. But the DA, because it is unable to marshal enough political support on its own, it would rather go to the ANC, because in the ANC there are elements who are neoliberals and who have Bantustan mentality of subordinating themselves to the white rule and white governance and white expertise that is claimed but unverified.
With due respect, and we're coming to the end of the interview, we've got to be realistic, Sandile. We're almost 30 years into our democracy, and we keep blaming, well, certain factions of government, particularly the ANC and a lot of other people, keep blaming the apartheid era for all of our woes, whereas we do know realistically, 30 years on, we should have made something of this country. If we hadn't had cadre deployment, large-scale corruption, crooked politicians, we wouldn't be sitting in this situation, and we would not be pointing our fingers at and blaming apartheid. Apartheid is gone, it's dead, it's over. We've had 30 years to pick ourselves up and make something of our lives as Black people. It is our own people, our own Black brothers and sisters who've let us down. We can't keep singing that old song. We can't continue singing from that hymn sheet. We need to look at the reality as it is, and we need to do something about it, and we need to move on.
I will be the first one to admit that the ANC has disgraced all of us, especially the Black people. They've disgraced us 100%. And the second thing I will say to you is that, you know, as a person growing up in Soweto, born in Soweto, we saw a lot of talented Black people, doctors, all sorts of people. They were there. And they are still there till today. And some of us are part of those talented people. So that is not a problem. The problem has been to allow the ANC to be captured by criminals. I'll say two things as I close.
Absolutely.
the RDP program, and we've got experts who are working on the RDP program, was an excellent program. It was working, it was effective, and it would have transformed this country rapidly. In 1996, the white establishment objected strongly to the RDP program. Then we changed to GEAR, and Thabo Mbeki was able to make GEAR also successful. Then in 2007, that was all of that now was overthrown. Then criminality, large-scale criminality was allowed. The point now is that no matter who wins the power in 2024, reintroduce competence. Competency is there in the Black community. There's a lot of it. Reintroduce ethical professionals in all spheres of the state. Reintroduce high performance, which we had up until 2007. That needs to be reintroduced. We cannot continue with this criminality that is going on. So the issue about who is racist and who's not racist, it's a discussion for another day. The issue that I'm talking about is that we must exercise technical excellence.
Finally, do you believe that the ANC Women's League still holds relevance? Would they be able to make any difference at all come the elections? Would they be able to garner women's votes and perhaps boost the ANC's election figures?
I think the ANC Women's League is a disaster, and the newly elected leadership does not represent the quality of women of South Africa, including Black women. The caliber, this is not the cream of the crop. And I can say this because I went and reviewed, just to look through the list of all the United Nations declarations on women conventions, the campaigns that we're supposed to be busy within the women's struggle. Those things are not on the table. They are not being discussed in South Africa right now. And as far as I know, certainly not by the leaders of the women. Now, what happened in 2007, which is the problem right now, is that competence and capability, Mandela called it capability, was replaced with so-called popularity or populism. So a person who's popular with a whole bunch of ignorant people, incompetent people, and criminals is put in leadership, rather than the competent people who knows with expertise in depth the issues of women in Africa, the issues of women in South Africa, the issues of women in the global south, and the issues of today, and actually addressing that, and through success attacked both. The Women's League has achieved absolutely nothing for a very long time. So why would anyone be attracted to it? The reason why Mbeki got the ANC to 69.69% was competence and excellence in execution. It was not that he was popular. Mbeki is not popular even now. He's not a popular guy. He's not an enjoyable guy. But his excellence in execution caused votes to come to the ANC. So anybody who thinks he's going to use random gimmicks to win votes is mistaken.
Sandile Swana, always a pleasure to pick your brain. You give us truly amazing political insights into the issues. Till the next time, as always, keep warm, be safe, God bless.
Bye.
8:40 exactly, news and views right here on Salam Media. In a minute or two, we're going to be talking about the arrest of ex-president of Pakistan, and that, of course, is Imran Khan, ex-prime minister of Pakistan, and we're going to get some insight into that issue. Still to come on the show, later on in the program, we'll be talking with Tasneem Adams. She is a news producer at ETV. Fatima Sukaria from the Salam Foundation, co-director, has been awarded the Women of Wonder Award, the Panache Awards. And of course, we're still focusing on women and their achievements. We'll be talking to the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. And we are going to be talking about honoring women of fortitude. So please do stay with us this Monday morning, right here on News and Views on Salam Media.